Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Today I want to talk about cruelty-free stuff. Um, there's been a couple things that have come across my feed and stuff lately. There's a comedian that I follow who's a vegan. He jokes about it a lot. Um, he talks about how he was one time being very pretentious about trying to live, cruelty-free. The pompous, arrogant vegans that some people that sometimes vegans can be. And there was another meme that I saw recently, actually this morning. I saw it again, um, about how veganism is cruelty free. You're an idiot if you believe otherwise. So I kind of want to address that aspect of it a little bit. I don't want to bash on vegetarians or vegans because it's your choice. What you eat is your choice. If you think being a vegetarian has less of an impact on the environment, that is totally fair and totally true. It does consume less resources and produce less pollution than eating meat. That's a perfectly valid reason. If you don't want to eat animals because you think it's cruel to them, that is also perfectly valid and totally your choice. Nothing against that, not going to knock it. I am going to harp on the pretentiousness of some people saying that it's cruelty free. In that and other ways too. But one of the ways I want to address is the fact that a lot of the stuff that vegetarians eat, things like quinoa and soybean, are farmed in third world countries in places like, well, not just third world countries, but places like South America, where they're basically bulldozing land and the people who are farming it are starving. Their farms were destroyed and they're being now forced to work so that pretentious Americans can eat soybeans and soy products and quinoa and crunchy kale and hairy yams or whatever. They're there's also the fact that any farming at all involves pest control and not just killing of insects. Rats, mice, moles, voles, shrews, groundhogs are all killed in the process of farming, either through pesticides and traps or anything else to try and keep them from getting to the food, or in the food as it's being stored. This is happening. It has happened since the dawn of time. We have always had needed to keep these animals away from our food. Otherwise, they would consume it or otherwise destroy it by going to the bathroom in it. That's why I trap mice in the houses, because they chew on stuff and poop and pee in my house. Don't want them here. I don't like having to do it, but I also can't have them in my house. So, the aspect of farming creates food deserts, has farmers going hungry, and kills thousands and thousands of rodents. So you're not living cruelty free just because you're a vegetarian or a vegan. You can be said to have minimized the harm you are causing, but it's not cruelty free. That's being very pretentious. But I also realize there's a segment of the population that doesn't particularly care about the death of small furry creatures. People who eat meat, delicious, tasty meat. And even though I do care about the fate of small furry animals, I do love a bacon cheeseburger. I can't help it. But even if you're one of those people who doesn't care about the death of small furry animals, it's still almost impossible to live cruelty free. Even if you don't think that aspect of it is being cruel, it's just the way things are done, you're still not living cruelty free. Chocolate is formed from cacao beans, or cacao pods, whatever you want to call it, the cacao plant. Over 2/3 of the world's production is in the Ivory Coast. There are almost 2 million child workers farming your chocolate. This is child labor. This is produced with child labor. It's unavoidable. If you eat chocolate, you are likely consuming a product that was made with child labor. There it is. But beyond that, there's this. Now, you might think I'm going to be talking about the manufacturing plant where Apple makes these. Louis C.K. did a bit about how, they had to put suicide nets up around the Apple buildings because people were jumping off of them because it was so horrible to work there. But I'm not going to talk about that, even though that is kind of horrific. I'm talking about cobalt. Cobalt comes from the Congo. Again, over 2/3 of the country, the world's production of cobalt comes from the Congo, where it is mined using slave labor, actual slave labor, as in people who are forced to mine this stuff from sunup to sundown. They are captives. They are forced to work. They are not being paid. They are slaves. This was, it's the batteries, not the plastic and stuff, but, cobalt is used to make the batteries for this and for electric cars, but more people have these than electric cars. And not just Apple, any cell phone, any wireless device like this, a tablet, a pad, an e-reader, anything like this. The money went to buy this went towards people who are slave owners. That's just the way it is. It is virtually impossible to live in this world without causing harm, because of greed and apathy. Almost anything you do in modern society causes harm in some fashion. And unless you pull yourself entirely off the grid, you can't avoid it. Good hunting.